Hey everybody, we're two
What's
metal,
going on?
and so we watched a documentary. What was it
Yes, we did.
on Paramount? Was it?
It's on Paramount Plus. Yeah, it's called Nothing But a Good Time. And I actually read the book first.
Oh, it was a book.
Yeah, it's fucking
Oh
big,
yeah,
dude.
you told me about that. Yeah,
It's like 600 something pages. It's like you could beat the shit out of somebody with it. Um, and it's really good. It's these two dudes who just love that music and are really interested in that fucking genre and that whole time frame of the music scene. So they just dug and dug and dug and got interviews and talked to dudes and listened to old records and watched old MTV footage and put together this really cool book that is a very awesome summary of the glam scene from the 80s in going into like the early to mid 90s when that scene kind of died out. And yeah, they made a 3 episode documentary about it and put it up on Paramount Plus. And it's, I mean, compared to the book, it's so short and goes by so fast.
yeah.
Which, of course, that's like anything that they turn a book into a movie. There's things missing and stuff, shit that you wish was in there. There's areas I thought they could have gone a lot more in depth. There was a lot of bands that I feel like they skipped over
They
that are
spent
in the book.
they spent a lot of time on certain bands, and then like there was other ones
Right.
that were like, oh, here's White Lion. They were cool. Next, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they kind of like skimmed right over White Lion. You didn't see episode 3, but I think there was more. Pretty sure there was. Yeah, there's more White Lion in episode 3, but they don't really harp on them. They also didn't talk at all about Striper,
Or
which I thought
Slaughter, right?
was fucking crazy. That too, yeah. Slaughter. I mean, you could have gone into the Vinnie Vincent invasion.
Twisted Sister.
Twisted Sister, they really didn't fucking talk about. Um,
It seemed like
Cinderella.
they focused a lot on the LA scene, it seemed like.
Yeah, but then they one of the biggest LA bands in Striper, they just fucking went right over them and they're featured prominently in the book because
Maybe
Striper used to be called Rock's Regime.
maybe they were boring because they were Christian metal and they weren't partying and
I mean, when they were Rock's Regime, they were partying.
yeah.
Yeah, before they like found Jesus and made that their gimmick, they were a party band. They used to hang out with Rat and drink and fucking smoke and bang chicks and they were fucking party animals until they turned into Striper and had to clean themselves up.
Hmm.
And the book goes pretty good into detail with that, and just no mention of them in the doc at all. No mention of like you said, Twisted Sister. Like, come on, these guys were the prototype.
Yeah, but they were New York.
True,
Yeah.
but then they spent a lot of time in episode 3 talking about Skid Row
Yeah.
and Skid Row's jersey.
Crazy. Yeah.
I mean, these guys were the guys that created the mold, Twisted Sister, essentially. Look
They
wise
made
and
it
stylistically.
they made it seem like it was Motley Crue.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess essentially it sort of kind of was, but I don't know. I would. I mean, Twisted Sister goes back to the fucking 70s.
Yeah. Well, they
You
did have
know,
Van Halen in briefly, but that was because Nikki
right?
Sixx and Tommy Lee were like two rabid chihuahuas just biting people,
Yeah,
literally biting people. And Tom
literally
Eddie
biting
Van
and
Halen
biting.
decided to punch Vince Neil, and he tried it. You know, like
Right.
I'm like, what is with these? And then what was their manager like? oh, Tommy was like, oh, is Eddie mad at me? I like him. And he's like, well, you don't bite people. And how crazy they were. Yeah, tell them biting people was bad.
Yeah, yeah. That those dudes were fucking. Did you ever read The Dirt?
No, but I have it, and I've been meaning to, and I read a lot of books, and
Right.
I haven't read that one.
You should read The Dirt, dude, because as cool as the movie is.
I didn't see the movie either.
Oh, you didn't see the movie yet?
No, I
All
didn't.
right. Read the book first, then watch the flick. And in the flick, they're going to tell you, like, hey, we glossed over a lot of shit because we only had so much time. So there's things in the movie that don't really line up. There's things in the movie that are missing, that are in the book. So just read the fucking book, which is pretty cool. They acknowledged that
It'd be
in
too
the
long.
flick itself. But yeah, you should definitely read that book and watch that movie, dude. They were psychopaths.
Yeah, I mean,
They
like,
were.
I feel like I don't know when you started with your first band, but I feel like we caught the tail end of this is people were cool with all this crazy stuff, and
Right.
there were no cameras on your phone.
Yeah.
If you had a camera, it was easy to spot you were using it. You know,
Right.
not
Yeah,
that
exactly.
we weren't doing anything to the extent of people are gonna like now go look back on that and think, oh, that was awful, even though it was okay back then. We didn't.
Right.
There was a lot of lines that got crossed in the '80s that were probably fine back then, but
Oh, of course.
we were we weren't that crazy, but we had our moments, and but we were also. I feel like they were a lot more savvy. A lot of these '80s bands, because like you saw a lot of the shows, the assault shows early on, and how packed they were,
Oh,
and
yeah.
somehow like we had a big scene. Somehow
Yeah.
nobody was around scouting the bands. You know how many places we were playing, and we were so concerned with just wanting to play. We could have been making money, and we weren't.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
we didn't realize, oh, this bar or this small club is making a killing on us.
Right.
They should be giving us something. We were just so excited to get to play, even though we were playing sometimes Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you know,
Right.
that we didn't even think about that they weren't giving us anything. They would give us free drinks, which was cool. But at very early on in us playing, we realized we can't do that until after we're done playing because we're a mess if we do. you know,
Right.
like, so it,
Yeah, and I seen you guys sometimes open for bands that were bigger than you at the chance and watch half the chance fucking leave after you guys were done.
we had bands opening for us that blew up, and somehow we got
Right.
nobody even know. I don't know if we were doing something wrong. I mean, we were slightly known as a party band, but not like not to the point where you were like these guys wouldn't get anything done. I think that we just didn't put our. I guess we didn't send our stuff out. I don't know how. I don't know how anybody didn't come to the area realizing there was a big scene there and
Right.
pick somebody up, whether it was us or not. There was a lot of other bands,
Sure was.
but we had Imure come up multiple times and open for us.
I remember that.
Diecast,
I remember that.
they all ended up on Ozfest. Well, you had to pay to be on Ozfest, but they all
Right.
ended up with Imure. I guess is still around. I don't know if Diecast is.
They're still around, but I don't think there's even one original member left.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we caught them early on. They would come up and open for us, and like there
Yeah,
was,
they turned into a pretty fucking big band.
but they also disappeared really fast. So
They kind of did have their moment in the sun, and it wasn't a very long lived moment.
no, and like
Yeah.
watching this documentary like made me think a lot of this. Like man, what the hell could we have done different? But there was nothing there. Like you knew, they knew in LA, hey, if we play these places, somebody will pick us up. We were playing, sometimes we'd be playing like 3 mile, like we play Friday night, and then the next night we'd play like 3 miles away. And it would
Yeah,
still be packed.
yeah.
And there would still be like different bands on each show. And maybe somebody did come out one day. I don't know. But if,
Yeah, I guess you'll never know
yeah,
unless somebody introduced themselves to you and said, "Hey, I'm from fucking Nuclear Blast."
well, that's the thing. You know how many times we heard somebody say, "Hey, I have this connection," or "I scout for this person. Give me," and
Right.
99% of the times it was bullshit, and they were just looking for something.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. It seems like they knew the guys back then. Like
Well,
they,
I think also too is with glam, it was pop. Like it was like everybody was doing it and everybody loved it. Girls loved it, which made it huge. They had big girl followings. And then, there's a point in this documentary where Doc McGee, who managed Crew and Skid Row and Kiss, he goes, look, he goes, it's, these labels saw one band succeed and they signed 75 bands that sounded like it and destroyed a good thing.
yeah. I think what might have ruined it for our era is we were in. I mean, I joined in 1999 when metal crashed. You know,
Right.
so we were playing metal, and it was obvious in the underground metal scene that people wanted it. But
Oh, yeah.
we were also there was a point for a couple of years that whether you liked us or not, you weren't going to get any metal. You were going to get hardcore other than that. You weren't going to get another metal band doing guitar solos and harmonies. It was very rare.
You were going to get a lot of rap metal too
Yeah,
at that point.
new metal, and yeah. So
Yeah.
that might have been why we got overlooked a lot of the times
Yeah.
because
Yeah, no doubt.
it hadn't come back yet. You know,
Right. Guitar solos weren't cool anymore,
if you
you
came to
know?
any of the shows, you would have realized, wow, people do want this still. You know,
Yes.
and like I was saying, not just my band. There were a good handful of bands that were very good.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of like, yeah, this is cool, but this isn't gonna last.
Right.
There was a lot. There was a handful of good bands.
There definitely was. More than a handful. There was quite a few fucking killer bands
Yeah, I mean, most of
back
them
then.
were like it was a lot of pseudo metal. I think we were the only ones that you would listen to and go, yeah, that's definitely thrash metal. you know,
Right.
where
Yeah, that's
a
true.
lot of it was like a crossover or like new metal was a lot. There's a lot of that, or like a lot of the like it was a lot of like the hardcore but metal where there was a lot of breakdowns. There was a lot of those.
Metalcore.
Yeah, there was a lot of those bands.
Yeah.
Some of them you could listen to and go, all right, this is something I've heard from every other one. And then there was some that you were like, all right, these guys are onto something, you know.
Right. Right. That's how I
Them, I
like
think within the runes, I think became somewhat popular for a while.
Within the Ruins was fucking massive. I mean, for us,
They were one of the bands that would play with us back in the day.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
And then Tim joined them and they fucking blew up.
We were playing with Tim's band that he was in before that. And we were playing,
Rotten Pain.
yeah, Rotten Pain. We were playing with Within the Ruins before he was in the band, I think.
Right.
Yeah. But there were so many bands with runes in it that sometimes it was hard to keep them all straight. Yeah, yeah.
I
There's a lot of beneath the remains and beneath the runes, and there was a lot
Yeah,
of.
there was a Beneath the Remains. Yeah, that's right.
So it was hard to keep a lot of that straight.
It certainly was.
Especially when you were partying a lot of the time.
Right. And you're playing so many goddamn shows and everything kind of starts turning into a blur.
Yeah, I mean every weekend pretty much. So a lot of what you saw in the documentary, like we never I never knew people of our era that moved somewhere and somehow could afford an apartment even though they're eating out of like garbage cans and like
Well, that's the thing
Motley
is
Crue is
like
eating
look
out of garbage cans, like
but look at like Poison. So they started in
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania and moved over to LA. And it's not like they could even really afford an apartment. They were living in the back room of a fucking dry cleaners
Yeah.
amongst roaches and rats and shit. Like they probably just, okay, you know, if we give this guy maybe $50, we could stay here for the month.
But you're not
You
getting
know?
those anymore. Like even that shitty room nowadays would be hundreds of dollars at least.
That's right. That's right. You'd be
Not
paying a
getting that.
grand over there in California to sleep with cockroaches.
Yeah, you're not getting that. And a lot of those wouldn't even let you stay there anymore. Like you get caught now.
Right.
Mhm. And there was
And
a
they also,
Guns
you
N'
know,
Roses. The people the label got Guns N' Roses' house, which they destroyed.
right. Yeah.
You know?
And also, too, a lot of them would like shack up with chicks
Yeah.
and, you know, just couch surf at a girl's house for a little bit and, you know, then move on to the next one. And with Guns, they lived in their fucking manager's house for a while and then destroyed the place. And she had to finally tell them, get the fuck out of my house.
Yeah.
Got these five fucking heathens destroying my house, smoking cigarettes and getting loaded and fucking shooting up dope on my couch. Get the fuck out.
One thing I didn't know about Guns N' Roses was that the guns part came because Tracy Gunn was.
Oh, you didn't know that?
I didn't know he was the guitar player before Slash.
Yes, he
He saw how
was.
crazy they were and went, "I'm too young. I can't do this." You
Yeah.
know? Right?
So yeah, there was Hollywood Rose,
Yeah.
which was Axel and Izzy, and three other guys that I can't remember their fucking names. And then there was LA
I don't even
Guns.
think they mentioned their names.
Yeah, that they didn't
Must
mention their
not have
names in the
ended up. Yeah, they
documentary.
must not have ended up in something else.
No, they didn't. I have a CD around. Yeah, I can't really dig it out right now, but I have a Hollywood Rose CD that's their demo. And Tracy Guns remixed it. So it sounds really cool.
Huh.
And that's where like Shadow of Your Love came from. That's where Rocket Queen came from. You hear
Uh,
those songs like back in their original fucking form. It's pretty cool. So yeah, there was LA Guns and Hollywood Roses, and then they became incestuous. They were trading band members.
yeah.
One guy would go to Hollywood, and then he'd go to fucking LA Guns. Guy would leave LA Guns and go to Hollywood Roses. So they just Axel and Slash said, "Fuck it, let's put two and two together and form Guns and Roses." And then Tracy couldn't hack it,
I thought it was
and
Izzy. It was Izzy and Axel. Slash took over for Tracy Gunn. Or not, yeah.
that's right. Yes, yeah. Slash took over for
Slash also tried out for
Tracy
Poison.
Guns. What's that?
Slash also tried out for Poison.
Yes, he did,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah. And he didn't
Which
get
is
it
fucking
somehow.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember reading that in Slash's book. That's another book you should read. Is Slash's autobiography is fucking fantastic.
Huh.
Um, he talks about like he knew the guitar player from Poison that was leaving. They were buddies, and fucking dude was like, "Yo, here's this Poison tape. Learn these fucking songs. I have to go. My girlfriend's pregnant. I have to get a real nine to
Oh yeah,
five."
they weren't making any money. Yeah.
Yeah, they were starving. So Slash learned all the tunes note for note, and he walked in wearing like a Motorhead shirt, ripped up jeans, and Chuck Taylors, and you know, ripped out the fucking jam session with them. And they're like, "Dude, you're really good, but like, are you gonna wear that on stage?" And Slash was like, "I don't know. haven't really thought about it. Yeah, this is just what I wear. I'm comfortable in this. And they were like, all right, we'll give you a call. So then Slash leaves the fucking jam spot and walks right past CC DeVille, and Slash goes, that's the guy that's going to get the fucking job. He just looked too
Oh,
perfect.
Brett Michaels told the story different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you heard two different stories, but
That he wanted Slash because CC came in and didn't learn any of the stuff.
yeah, he didn't know any of the fucking songs,
Yeah.
even though they supposedly made that a requirement. Learn
Yeah.
the material and come in, but CC just walked in and said, "Ah, fuck you guys. Here's this song," with his Joe Pesci voice.
And then he,
Yeah,
but Brett
it's
Michaels
cool,
said that
man.
that he thinks that's what started a feud between CC and Slash, and it's like I never really knew there was a feud, but
There wasn't really, I mean, Guns N' Roses hated that like style and that look.
I mean Axel was very close.
He was very close.
You know, his purple spandex and yeah, they were kind of in between. You could look at them and think they might be Slash. I mean, they might be Thrash, might be Slash,
They
but
might be Slash.
like you could think they might be thrash metal, but then they had like the teased hair instead of
And that's the thing is like Axel didn't keep that teased hair very long because then on the back of this LP, look at the fucking picture.
yeah. But he also wore like purple spandex short shorts on stage.
Oh yeah,
I mean, and yeah, I don't know. They were almost glam, I guess, but the music wasn't glam.
yeah.
They were
That's the
more,
thing is
they
they
were
were
more
so
rock.
much harder than all the other bands.
Yeah,
They were so much harder than Poison. They were so much harder than what Crew became at the point when GNR showed up. You know, Crew was fucking heavy for their first two records and then got really polished and really poppy with Theater of Pain and fucking Girls, Girls, Girls. And then all of a sudden, here comes these dudes that sound like they're straight out of the gutter, which they essentially were. But
that's
they not only did they look it, they sounded like it.
that's probably what saved them though, because they weren't really glam.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people that weren't into glam grabbed onto that and was like, this is the fucking band.
Yeah, because they were almost metal, but I guess you would think of
Not
them.
quite.
Yeah, but back then, I guess you would think of them as metal.
Sure.
But you know, looking back on it now,
I
maybe.
would say the same thing about Skid Row too. I always felt that way about them, where they were like kind of glam.
Yeah, but
You know, they were good
weren't-
looking dudes.
they didn't have
Sebastian
the
Bach was
makeup.
pretty.
Yeah, they weren't all dolled up with lipstick and everything though.
Right.
Yeah,
And they
that,
were wearing tight jeans and shit, but they,
that
you
was
know, they
kind of
weren't like, yeah, that was the look in the 80s. They weren't like really prissy and like didn't look like supermodels,
well,
you know.
they
That
were saying one of the guys said that MTV killed the ugly rock star,
yeah, it's true.
and not intentionally, but like
I feel like it's probably kind of intentionally because it's like, you know, I'm sure there were bands that they turn around and said, we're not really interested in your video. But then they took the new Poison video because Poison looked fucking great, you know.
yeah, maybe.
Even with GNR at the very beginning, like when they first gave the video for Welcome to the Jungle, MTV was trying to bury that. They
Yeah.
didn't want to have anything to do with it. They thought the music was too loud. They didn't think the guys in Guns were good looking enough. And they aired it at like 1 o'clock in the morning on a fucking Wednesday and got bombarded with phone calls. Yo, play that again. Play that. You got to play that Welcome to the Jungle thing again.
Hmm.
So that's kind of what helped blow them up. And then, of course, they put out the video for Sweet Child of Mine, and that's what made them superstars.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the bands were saying that it was MTV that kind of like Def Leppard. And there was,
Yeah.
using their so
MTV was huge for all those bands.
yeah, that's the thing. Like you look and you think about it, like what do we have now?
YouTube.
Yeah,
That's
Not,
pretty much where you go to watch music videos now. That's where I go.
but you're looking up the band.
Oh, of course.
You're not coming across random. I mean, I guess you could occasionally, but
Every once in a while, if I go look for something, YouTube will say, like, oh, you might also like this. And I'll go, okay, let me check this thing out. And sometimes I really dig it. Most of the times it's really not my cup of tea.
yeah. Well,
But
like
that's like really it.
that was what I guess record labels were good for back then.
Right. Yeah,
Getting,
picking shit out and showing, all right, here's the cool new thing,
yeah.
and that was MTV had a big hand in that too. All right, so you didn't see episode three.
Oh yeah, go to
Episode
that.
three talks about Winger dying out because of MTV.
Oh, because Beavis and Butthead.
Yes. So, all of a sudden, Winger's the shit because MTV's playing the videos all the time, 17 and fucking headed for a heartbreak and all that shit. And then all of a sudden, Beavis and Butthead comes out and they put the Winger shirt on the fucking kid everybody hates. And they have Beavis and Butthead sitting there watching glam videos and they're just shitting on the fucking videos. And that helped a lot to usher out glam. Because I remember when that cartoon was huge, I remember going to high school wearing a Poison shirt, and people who didn't even really like hard rock or metal were like, oh, that band sucks. What are you wearing a Poison shirt for? I'm like, you don't even listen to this. What are you talking? Well, Beavis and Butthead hate it. Fuck it, it's a cartoon. Are you listening to the record? Do you have fucking flesh and blood? No, I don't listen to that. So go fuck your mother. How about that?
They got me into bands that they were making fun of, like Grim Reaper.
Yeah, absolutely.
King Diamond was on there. Cannibal Corpse. I remember one of the things they said about Cannibal Corpse, and it didn't stop me from wanting to listen to them, was, hey, if they learned to play their instruments as well as they could swing their hair around, this might be pretty good. You know?
I remember that.
And I still, and I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. They're fucking bitching about how Steve Grimmett sucked and See You in Hell, and I'm like, this rocks. What are they talking about?
But I think that Mike Judge probably liked all those bands.
He might have, yeah. He might have.
Probably didn't have the intention that this was gonna ruin some of them.
Yeah.
It's like, how
Well,
impractical can you be? Like, do you like it, or like it's a cartoon? It's supposed to be funny. Like,
true, but people are very impressionable. I mean, there's a whole generation of people that think the Kardashians are awesome.
yeah, that's true. So,
You know what I mean?
well, then what goes on more at the end of the third episode?
They go into Skid Row in depth. They talk about Sebastian Bach being a fucking maniac. And him getting tossed or leaving or whatever it was. They said he had done an interview saying that they had the opportunity to open for Kiss and the bass player didn't want to do it. So Sebastian Bach flipped out and said he was going to kick Rachel Bowman's ass. And that's when they were like, dude, we're done with you. Just fucking go kill yourself. So that was the end of Skid Row. Then they started talking about some of the, like, I guess you'd call it third or fourth wave bands like Nelson and Tough. And I don't even really, I sort of remember Tough.
I don't remember Tough, but I remember Nelson, and they had the music video, and I actually didn't mind it. I
I
mean,
like that song, Love and Affection. It was just on the radio last night, and I was cranking it up going to get groceries.
I mean,
I
I was
fucking love that
I was
song.
probably 6 years old when that came out, but I liked it.
Yeah, yeah, you were probably 8 because I think that came out in like 90.
Oh, it was
But
that?
it's a fucking great song. But super polished, super poppy. It's when you compare that to Motley Crue Shout at the Devil, it's two different things. But
Yeah.
then again, Motley Crue turned into two different things too. If you look at Shout at the Devil and Girls, 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 it's two different fucking styles and two different bands essentially.
Well, didn't Slaughter come out at the end too? Like
Yeah, Slaughter, and that's another one
they
that they
weren't
really
they
didn't
weren't super
fucking talk about.
they weren't super polished. They were more of a
They were a little more gritty,
yeah, they were more rocking than Nelson was.
and they got their start essentially as the Vinnie Vincent Invasion.
That's right, yeah. And I'm surprised
Former
they didn't talk about oh fuck, I forgot. I forgot what I was about to say. Slaughter. There's another band.
They didn't talk about Cinderella at all,
No.
and that's a big band.
Yeah, and a Whitesnake. They
Yeah,
mentioned
they really
they
didn't go
mentioned the
into
whole girlfriend on the car thing. But other than that,
right.
yeah.
They really didn't go into any bands that had already been established and then started to lean glam, like Kiss,
Hmm.
like Ozzy, like
Oh,
Whitesnake.
Ozzy was in there a little bit because of Motley Crue.
Yeah, and the Randy Rhoads thing, because Randy was in Quiet Riot first.
Yeah.
And so there was a little Ozzy, but they didn't talk about like Ultimate Sin or No Rest for the Wicked, which are essentially Ozzy's glam records. They didn't talk about Lick It Up or fucking Animalize from Kiss, which are great fucking glam
I
albums.
guess they probably focused on the bands that they were able to get the guys from to do interviews.
Yeah,
And
yeah, which
they had Corey Taylor in there doing, I don't know why, for, you know,
Corey Taylor did the foreword to the book,
oh, okay.
and he's a big glam fan.
Yeah, but I
So
mean,
they were just like, let's have this dude fucking talk from a fan perspective.
and then Steve-O also, which was funny.
Yeah, well, Steve-O's got that crazy story of going to hang out with Crew when he was like fucking 9 years old or whatever. He found those dudes, was just calling hotel rooms, and I think he knew Doc McGee was their manager or whatever, and
Yeah,
was saying,
so
"Oh, I
that's
need to talk to Doc McGee," and wound up being able to hang out with fucking Motley Crue. That's pretty cool.
yeah.
That determined kid. I like that they focused a lot on Wasp too, because I feel like Wasp doesn't get the love that they deserve.
Yeah. I mean, they were a little bit, I don't remember seeing them on MTV and all that stuff.
I vaguely remember seeing some videos on Headbangers, but they were one of like with Crew, one of the heavier glam bands. Like they were a lot more aggressive.
Yeah. And a lot of their songs probably weren't able to be played.
They had some hits though. I mean, fucking I Want to Be Somebody. That's a great sing along glam
Yeah.
tune. And fucking Wild Child. That's a great fucking song. I mean, I can understand not putting Bull Crusher on MTV, even though it's a fantastic song and it should be on MTV. Blind in Texas had a really cool video.
Hmm.
Yeah, and this band also featured for a short time Stephen Riley, who wound up being the drummer from LA Guns.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a very
Little,
incestuous time, I guess.
absolutely, for a lot of bands.
Not that it's not that different now.
That's true.
Not a lot of bands anymore.
That's true.
Multiple people are playing in multiple different bands.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you got lots of dudes with side projects and shit.
Yeah. Huh.
Look at those handsome boys in Dockin.
I didn't realize Don Dokken was, I guess, for the time, older.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just a Dockin album that came out a couple years ago that's like all the old demos and original recordings, and some of that shit goes back to the 70s.
Okay. Yeah, he didn't get
So
signed
yeah, he
for
was
the
around
80s,
for a
I guess.
while.
Yeah. Well, I know.
George Lynch is the dude that kind of made Dockin metal.
and they didn't even really mention him.
No, I think it's because
They showed in the videos, but they didn't even mention him. It
yeah,
was all Don
I
Doc.
think it's because they still really don't like each other very much.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like it was Don Dawkins' documentary.
True.
Yeah. Well,
They shit on a couple bands. One dude was talking towards the end. He goes, "Oh, the scene became so flooded." He goes, "You had bands like Bullet Boys and Dangerous Toys and Pretty Boy Floyd," and I'm like, "Those are all good bands." Like, I could kind of understand you shitting on fucking Nelson a little bit because they're so polished and poppy, but like, man, Dangerous Toys is another one that really just I felt like they never got the love that they deserved.
they came in too late.
They did come in very late. I just did the podcast, the Rock Fantasy podcast last night. We were talking about albums from '94, and there was a Dangerous Toys album from '94, and that's really the death of,
Yeah, that's really
you
when
know,
Nirvana really hit. Well,
well,
no,
that's the year
Kurt
Kurt
died,
died.
right? And they really
That's the year Kurt died.
they did take off then.
They certainly did.
Yeah,
That's when Kurt became a legend.
yeah.
And Pretty Boy Floyd, man, they only got one record, but it's a goddamn good album.
I don't think I ever listened to
Leather Boys with Electric Toys. They
it.
were kind of they were kind of like a B level Motley Crue, and they actually cover a Motley Crue song on here, "Toast of the Town."
Hmm,
But they're really fucking good. I'm like, man, this guy just shit on two really great bands.
not surprising. Well, we obviously are skipping over a lot of stuff, but I think it's worth people watching.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. If you love glam, you're gonna want to see it. If you're just interested in that whole, it's basically a decade
music
of
history.
music that was fucking massive. It's definitely worth sitting down and watching 3 45-minute episodes, and it's also worth going and buying that book and checking it out too.
All right, everybody, comment down below us.
Blow us right there.
Two metalheads.